Crank up the volume and get ready for real-world bird hunting by listening to the Wingmen podcast by Eastmans. Now your host, Todd Helms.
This episode of the Wingmen podcast is brought to you by Leupold Optics. You know, I've been running Leupold Optics for a long time on the big game side of things, and I love the performance and the quality of that brand. But when Leupold brought performance eyewear into the mix a couple of years ago, I thought I'd seen it all, but I was wrong. That performance eyewear from Leupold keeps my eyes protected. It helps me with my target acquisition with a crisp, clear sight picture. And guys, I got to be honest with you, I'm stoked to be partnered with a company like Leupold. So for all your optics needs, give Leupold a look. Guys, welcome to another episode of the Wingmen podcast. My wingman, Josh Lancaster with Red Flats Retrievers, is back on with me. We're trying to make this like a once-a-month type thing for me and Josh to sit down and have a conversation about dogs and about hunting and waterfowl and bird hunting especially. But it's big game season in Wyoming, and Wingmen is a subsidiary of Eastmans Hunting Journals, which is the premier Western big game publication in the world. And dude just killed his first bull elk. So we're going to talk a little bit about that hunt, because I don't know very many bird hunters that aren't crossover in some niche. A lot of them hunt whitetails. A lot of them, if they're in a part of the country that doesn't have mule deer, elk, and antelope, they want to hunt out west. You know, most guys are hunters. You know, I've said it before. I'll hunt rats at the dump. I don't care. I'm down. So Josh has his Happy Gilmore caddy beard going on for elk season. I just handed him a bar of soap when he walked in, but he doesn't smell too bad. So anyway, congrats on the bull, brother.
Thank you, man. It was just an experience. Me and you got to go hunting opening day, and just it's been a hot year.
Hot and dry.
Hot and dry. I mean, for being up top where we were hunting that day, it's dry.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's how the whole season went. Archery season was very challenging. Nothing was talking. They were breeding at night. I mean, the rut really never kicked on.
Full moon was so bright. I was so intelligent on my elk planning hunts. I'm planning for my elk hunts this year that I planned 7 days in September during the peak of the full moon, and then 5 days in October during the peak of the full moon.
Yep. I'm
sitting out by the campfire. I could have read a book, brother.
Really?
It was so bright.
The morning I killed my bull, it was a full moon.
Yeah.
And literally there was nothing talking when we got out there. And then all of a sudden he was already bedded at 7:30.
Yeah.
I mean, they were running all hard.
That's what they do. They go all night long, and then they bed early. And then if you've got a spot you can see into broken timber or a bedding area that you can pick apart all day long, they'll get up and stretch their legs middle of the day.
Yep.
So staying out all day on those full moon periods can be advantageous.
Exactly. Yeah, and making sure, one of the things I realized and learned this year was while we were waiting one day, midday, we're sitting there, and all of a sudden we see elk 4 ridges away. And we're like, all right, they're moving. Well, you pay attention to that. That's huge.
Yes.
If you see elk, the elk in your area are going to start moving soon.
That's right.
And so it was something I learned this year. Even though we didn't see any right there where we were at, the elk were moving.
Right.
So
somebody's in the bathroom. That's okay. We can edit that out.
There we go. But yeah, no, it was an awesome experience, especially for my first bull elk. You know, I've taken many kids hunting, and they've been successful with bulls. But for me to personally succeed in getting an elk was just an absolute, I'm hooked.
I'm
hooked.
so happy for you, because our mutual friend that you guys have seen on the videos, Tyler, is we both were kind of leaning on you a little bit like, dude, you need to hunt. This is a really good tag.
Yeah.
And you're not going to – I mean, there's a lot of guys that draw this – put it this way, I haven't drawn that tag in 10 years.
Exactly.
That's the area that I apply for. I have a lot of experience in. I've killed a few bulls down there, but I haven't drawn it in a decade. And so I'm encouraging you.
Oh, yeah.
You're so dedicated to your ministry with youth and getting youth in the outdoors and not just into hunting, but with the focus of preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ at the same time as you're hunting with them and trying to be a role model hunter, a role model Christian, role model man, and I commend you so much for that. But you don't take enough time for yourself.
No, I don't.
You're like, oh, my time off's for the kids.
Yeah.
And that's so commendable. But, man, I was worried that you were going to eat this tag because you weren't dedicating the time to it for yourself.
Yeah. Well, and, we all have our things that we go after. And, for these kids, if I didn't kill another animal, I'd be okay. I hate to say that, but I love seeing the joy of these kiddos because it is something, if you haven't experienced it, of blessing a young man or woman that is in a position in their life that they don't know if they're going to live the next month. And how that it takes every bit of it away from you.
What's the organization you help out on?
So here in Wyoming, it's Wyoming Dream Hunts, and we are partners with Outdoor Dream Foundation out of South Carolina. And I've been a part of Outdoor Dream Foundation since 2011 back home in South Carolina.
And you guys do big game hunts?
Big game hunts,
you do
bird
some
hunts.
waterfowl hunts, some pheasant hunts?
Yes.
So if there's somebody out there listening to this that knows a kid that's sick,
terminally ill,
terminally
disease.
The whole Make-A-Wish type thing, if Make-A-Wish was actually cool.
Well, and
I don't mean to throw Make-A-Wish under the bus because they do good work, but they refuse to take kids hunting.
Anything with a firearm with Make-A-Wish, and that's where Outdoor Dream Foundation then was founded.
Right.
And so we are partners with Outdoor Dream Foundation and then Wyoming Dream Hunts. We're sisters, basically, as a nonprofits.
Right.
And so we have a hunt next week, actually in Jackson, that we're taking a young man with cancer. And then the following week, 2 kids are coming to Du Bois to kill mule deer. And so we're gearing up. We've had 2 disabled hunts this year so far, and we'll have 6 more.
Well, keep me in mind as I'm going to change hats here for a second, put on my imaginary Eastman's hat as the editor of Eastman's Hunting Journals, because I would love to publish those kids' stories. And I know that one of the guys that you're associated with that helps out and kind of does a lot of those hunts with you, we've just never been able to make it happen where we go out for lunch and sit down and hammer things out. But it's a really simple process, and I can walk everybody through it.
We just need to do it. We need to just be intentional.
Those kids those stories need to be told.
Correct.
We need to celebrate those successes.
Exactly.
And I applaud you for taking the time out of your personal schedule to do that. It speaks to the kind of man you are.
No, thank you.
And I'm proud to call you a brother because of that.
Well,
and other things, but despite the Happy Gilmore catty beard.
One of the coolest things that I see with it, and like you said, with ministry, me and my wife both will be going to Du Bois. And so it's my family and my buddy Tev, his family, we do every year. We do this Du Bois hunt, and both of our wives go. And it's just an awesome way to share what we love so much about it with our wives. And it's really important, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And
that tag is the premier mule deer tag in the state of Wyoming. Right now, with the state of mule deer in Wyoming, and a lot of places across the West that got pounded by the severe winter a couple of years ago, our deer numbers are rebounding, but they're nowhere near what they were.
Well,
and that place is, with the Eastman's MRS chip rating, we rate all the units in the state based upon blue being the best, yellow being, it's an opportunity to hunt, basically. Yeah. The only blue chip mule deer unit that consistently makes a blue chip the last couple of years is that unit.
Oh, for sure.
And it's hard to draw.
I've been putting in for 5 years and haven't drawn. I mean, that's just part of it. One day I'll draw it, but we'll see.
Yep.
So.
Oh, that's so cool. So cool. So you got your bull.
Yep.
You had another tag. You had an antelope, archery-only antelope tag in a very premier unit not far from home here. And you were successful with that tag.
Yep.
So you've accomplished a lot already, and we're not even to our meat and potatoes of waterfowl season.
For what we enjoy. And I'm not knocking the big game at all.
Yeah. Well, and guys listening to this are probably going, okay, that's great, big game guys, but let's get to the waterfowl. We're getting there. We're going to talk dogs too.
I was blessed with the archery-only antelope buck tag, and that was hard hunting also. I mean, this weather we're having, as you know, it's just hot and dry.
Yep.
I mean, it's for movement of any big game, you have to have weather. You got to get them out of the mountains, get them down to where actually our areas are, to be able to hunt them. So just, it's been a hard but awesome season, especially from where I was last year, as you know, with my neck surgery and then my ankle surgery, just not hunting at all to getting after it.
Yeah.
So I just filled my 4th tag with the sandhill crane and then my doe antelope. So it's been I've been blessed this season.
So we talked about the last time you and I sat down, we had just finished that morning the first waterfowl hunt of our fall.
Yes.
And you had a sandhill crane tag, and you filled it that morning along with another gentleman that was there.
Yes.
We were talking about eating it.
Oh, my goodness. So I did exactly what you had said, except I filleted it in half. I didn't butterfly it.
Yep.
So I just filleted it in half, put it in a hot skillet with butter, Montreal steak seasoning, and oh, my goodness. I seared both sides.
Ribeye of the sky.
And my wife, she eats ducks and geese, and when she took a bite out of it, she just looked at me. And I'm like, that tastes like beef, doesn't it? She's like, yeah. And I'm like, we need to get tags at somewhere else and just pile up and bring them home.
Yeah.
Because they are just phenomenal to eat.
They are. And the thing is, you can do that with so many different birds that are dark-meated birds, whether it's sage grouse. Sage grouse gets a really bad rap.
Correct.
To the point where they were feeding the railroad workers when they built the Transcontinental Railroad almost exclusively on sage grouse, and they revolted and had a little strike and said, you can't feed us sage grouse every day anymore. We're done. We're not going to work if you're going to. So they started bringing in different food, but sage grouse get a bad rap. But if you do them like you did that crane,
they're delicious.
They're incredible.
Yeah.
What it has to do with is any red-meated bird, whether it's doves, ducks, geese, sandhill cranes, sage grouse, sharp-tailed grouse, the longer you cook it, the more that dark meat, if you cook it too well done, it gets that iron, real livery taste to it.
Yes, and chewy.
Now, and there's different, and chewy.
And
right.
chewy.
It's got to be medium rare at the most.
Yes.
And that's my rule on ducks. That's my rule on geese. And they all have their different flavor profiles.
Correct.
But across the board, that's what I've found. If you cook it like a steak, like a beef steak, a ribeye steak, it's darn good.
Oh, man, it's phenomenal. And how many people have we heard, well, you're going to cook it over a cedar plank and cook it till it's black and then throw away the duck and eat the cedar plank? I mean, I've heard that my whole life. I love it. I mean, and I've had bad duck and I've had really good duck. It's all on how you prepare it.
It's 100% correct. And Canada geese are the exact same way.
Yeah.
Speckle bellies, oh, buddy. We ate some specks. I had the opportunity to eat one speck that I actually have killed a speck here in Wyoming.
Oh, yeah.
Which is very uncommon. And I got lucky one day on a duck hunt, and killed one.
Yeah.
And but when we went to Alberta, I killed a pile of them.
Okay.
And we set some aside and ate some for lunch one morning, late morning.
Mm-hmm.
Holy smokes. I cooked them the same way as a crane. They were outstanding.
Awesome.
Outstanding. So that's kind of a general rule, I think, for me. But let's switch gears from the big game stuff and the cooking, and let's talk. Like I said, we're not even scratching the surface, scratching the itch yet for waterfowl.
No.
That's a cool thing about where we live is we got big game in September and October. There's some duck hunting opportunities mixed in, a little bit of goose mixed in. They're flirting with the idea of an early goose season here, and which I think would be fun, but we don't have a ton of birds. There's areas that do.
Yeah.
It's kind of an embarrassment of riches.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's so much stuff to do that you really have to prioritize, or you end up just chasing your tail.
Correct.
And so I don't really focus on waterfowl until we start seeing pretty good loads of birds.
Mm-hmm.
And granted, by not focusing on it, I probably miss some opportunities. There's probably some early migrators that come through, and they're loaded up on some of these barley fields and different things that I miss, that I don't see because I'm not out. I'm focused completely on big game.
Yeah.
But we got pheasant season coming up in November.
You know, for game bird places, they're already shooting pheasants and chokers and huns right now.
Right. And my family's been slaying the grouse this fall on our elk hunts. Now, we didn't incorporate the dogs in any of that. No. It's all just opportunity. Take the kids off for a walk down a logging road with a 22 or a 410 and shoot grouse.
Let them have it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But as far as killing birds, that's what we've been doing, and it's pretty tough to beat a good mountain grouse feed, man. We had, my wife and I hunted elk all last week, and we killed, to and from. You're hunting hard in the morning. Same thing, full moon. You're hunting hard for a couple hours in the morning, and then maybe running back to camp if you're in an easy spot, quick to get in and out of. Run back to camp, take a snooze, late morning, get back out there early afternoon. And when you're coming and going, there's always grouse around. Yeah. And so it's like, there's a bird, jump out, put a move on it, and kill it. We ended up with, I think, 5 grouse. Awesome. By the end of that stretch. We'd kept breasting them out and putting them in the cooler on ice. And we whipped up a mean dehydrated teriyaki rice and chicken / grouse meal.
Awesome. Yeah.
So much of it that my wife couldn't finish her plate.
There you go.
And I was too full to eat her portion. So anyway, but yeah, man, we're coming into that. There's been geese flying over my house every morning. And well, not in the morning. I don't know about mornings. I'm sure they are, but they're flying over every evening. They're kind of piquing my interest. I caught Hondo looking up in the sky last night at them. They're flying over. But we're just getting into it, and I'm super stoked about it. We had a chance to release the first of last year's hunts last week.
Awesome.
Super cool hunt it was a collaboration hunt we did with Platte Basin Outdoors down in Colorado on the Front Range. We shot some. We got in on the very last day of Colorado's duck season. Lindsay and I left here at like 5 a.m.
Oh man.
Bombed down there, and we got there in time for an evening duck shoot, the last one of the year, and we shot some ducks. It was pretty cool.
Awesome.
But it was pretty much a little goose swat.
Gotcha.
And it was a ton of fun. That video is up on the Wingmen YouTube channel. You guys can check it out. Please do subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Leave us a like. Leave us a comment. Really helps drive that content and helps us bring more of this content to you. I think it's an awesome video, one of the best we've ever put together. It's really cool. So, but before you and I ducked in here to sit down and record this, my video producer Brett just grabbed my attention, and he was asking me questions. He's working on the edit for a field mallard shoot that we did last year.
There you go.
With Noah Miller with Mountain View Mallards. Yeah. And here, local outfitter. You guys could check him out. He's easy to find on social media and online. If you're looking for an awesome experience, an awesome guided experience for waterfowl, he's awesome. He's about as good as they get around here. And well, period. He's a good dude. We got to do a hunt with him. One of his guys. We were scouting the same field, and he's kind of like that guide, Bergie was, what are you going to do? And I said, well, let's make a deal. If you get permission, let me jump in with a camera person. If I get permission, you can jump out. It's just gonna be me, and we'll just bring your rig and we'll do it together instead of competing.
Oh, I know.
And so that's exactly how it worked out. I think he actually ended up getting permission first, and then the gentleman who owned the field called me and gave me permission. We both ended up with permission, but this is a sleigh fest, man. It's below zero.
Not a mile from my house.
Mm-hmm. And it was incredible. I mean, we had a good crew of clients for them. And at that point, I'm just trying to help him with the calling and decoy setup, trying to be an asset to him. Sure. When you get an opportunity to jump in a situation like that,
just
make yourself an asset.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Help out, carry decoys, help wherever you can, but don't get in the way at the same time. Yeah. We ended up having an awesome time with those guys, with that crew. We shot a whole bunch of mallards. It was epic. Yeah. And that video is getting edited right now, getting ready to drop. I can't wait for you guys to see it. So you can probably hear the excitement in my voice because we're coming into that time.
Yep.
And it is go time. Yes. And my dog, Hondo, is ready to rock, man. He is like, But because it's hunting season, I've been out and about chasing big game, and admittedly, my time spent training him has fallen off.
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm grinding on big game.
Well, and I can say the exact same for me.
So what do we do to keep our dogs sharp? As a dog trainer, as a kennel owner.
So it doesn't matter what you do with your dog. It could be coming in and out of the house, coming in and out of the kennel. It's everything. It's holding, waiting until I release you to get your food. No different than holding until I release you to go get a bird. There's so much of training that everybody says it's all field, bumpers, field bumpers. It's not. That's a huge part of it.
Right.
But there's more to obedience than just picking up the bumper, bringing it back to hand. There's so much in the house that can be done. Place training in the house. I can't tell you how many laps I've done in the house at heel when the weather's bad. You're not going to be outside working when it's a blizzard outside. Well, you should be, but it's too cold outside sometimes.
For a guy from South Carolina.
That's right.
The Rebel says it's too cold.
Uh-huh.
Polacks out there in Long John's going, let's do this.
Yeah, uh-huh. Yeah. But, there's so much more to training than just that bumper work.
Sure.
It's how good are they in the house when they're cooped up for so many days? Well, it's, they don't get to go out and run as hard as we would like them to. But, as you were saying with big game hunting, I've not neglected. It's not neglecting the dogs. It's just not getting their normal routine in.
Yeah.
That it's 30 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes in the evening.
Exactly.
And it's, they do fine. It's not, they're not going to be the potential we want them to be, but they'll be just fine.
Yeah.
It's the time. Doesn't matter if it's 5 minutes or 10 minutes of actually doing some type of training, working, conditioning, doing the same thing that you've done so that when it does come time for that hunt, that they're ready, they're prepared.
This episode of the Wingmen Podcast is brought to you by Kryptek. Guys, camouflage and quality hunting garments and apparel are vitally important to success in the field. You want to be out there when you want to be out there and for as long as you want to be out there. And you need high-quality garments and clothing and gear that's going to keep you concealed at the same time. Kryptek's variety of camouflage patterns and the offerings of apparel that they bring to market are second to none. I love being partnered with that company. I love the shared ethos that we have. I love the shared values that we have. And I'm super proud to support a veteran-owned American company like Kryptek.
It's interesting to hear you say that because, like I said, my wife and I took off, just the two of us.
Yeah.
On an elk hunt and we were gone. We left on a Monday. I worked till noon, and we took off. We got down to camp. Opening day was Tuesday. We hunted Tuesday through Saturday.
Yeah.
We ended up coming home Saturday afternoon.
Gotcha.
And the hunting wasn't great. It was tough, so we were like, why push it till the bitter end?
Yeah.
We kill a bull in some nasty hole on Saturday night, and we're packing out all night Saturday, all day on Sunday. Plus, we got to pack up camp, drive 8 hours home. It's not worth it. So we bagged it, came home, and one of the things that I noticed that night when I opened the door, because my dogs are outside all day long.
Yeah.
I got a big fenced backyard, and they're out there all day. And one of my folks were watching the kids, my mom and my dad, and my dad asked me, what can I do? Is there anything I can do with the dogs while you're away? And I said, honestly, just run Hondo. Mackinac is 12 years old. He doesn't need to run anymore.
Yeah.
If you want to take him for a walk on the lead, he'd love that.
Yeah.
But I said, if you want to throw a bumper or two in the backyard, that's fine. But the most important thing, Dad, you could do is keep Hondo in condition and run him. He's going to be more enjoyable for you to be around if he's tired.
Yeah.
He's mellow. And so my dad rode him almost every day while I was gone. But when I opened that slider to let those dogs in, granted, they were excited to see me.
Oh, yeah.
There was no sit and stay. It was blast through the door, and I went, oh, we haven't been doing any steadiness work while I was away. Because it's the rule that, and Hondo's better than Mackinac, but Mackinac comes in the house first, Hondo sits and waits till I call his name, and then he comes in the door. When the kids feed, my middle child feeds in the mornings before school, and my oldest daughter feeds in the evenings after school.
Yeah.
And both dogs have to place and are released on their name to eat. And they're pretty good at it, but they're little kids. They just want to get the chore done, so it might not, I'm kind of like, you're going to sit there for 10 seconds before I let you go.
Correct. Yeah.
And they're like, sit, stay, eat,
Full bang.
Pretty much. And I could see that immediately. Now, granted, the dogs were excited that we were home. They were amped up that we were there. But it was the little things like that. So it's interesting to hear you say that those training regimens, just because you're not training the dog running ladder drills or running blinds and doing all this stuff, you can still be working on obedience and on steadiness.
Exactly. And that is crucial. And I think that's where, when we talked about last time with Jasper and his steadiness, I think that's where it comes from.
He is one of the most steady dogs I've ever seen.
And just with that being said, that has been ingrained in him since I had him at 10 weeks old.
Yep.
I mean, just starting as a puppy, you sit. I call your name, then you can go eat. I mean, and that's how I've done it with all these dogs. With the litter I have, my new puppy female that I have, she's already at 11 weeks old. She's already getting pushed on that. Just you're going to sit.
I don't think you can start that.
I mean, as soon as possible.
As soon as possible, but definitely for anybody that's not raising a litter, they're probably going to get their puppy at 8 weeks.
Yeah.
And so the first week, my kind of rule of thumb is you're just enjoying the dog.
Oh, yeah.
Bonding. At 8 weeks old. You're bonding, and you're creating a safe environment. Yeah. You're proving to that dog, that puppy at 8 weeks, from 8 weeks, that first week, 8 to 9, you're bonding. You're creating a safe environment. You're introducing it to being in the crate by itself at night. And you're setting the groundwork, building the foundation for what you want that dog to become later on. From 9 weeks on, that obedience starts.
Yeah.
And I've seen people that have done it right, obviously done it right, and they got rock steady dogs to dogs that pretty much run the show.
Oh, yeah. And, I mean, that comes right there. That comes just knowing, having gone through enough dogs to see that. My first lab, he was crazy, all over the place. No, there was no control, no obedience.
But he fetched ducks.
And
who cared?
No, he brought him back to
me. He was a meat dog. And every dog until Hondo that I've had was the same way.
Yeah.
Now, Mackinac is pretty obedient. He's gotten worse in his old age just because he's stubborn and he doesn't hear as well and has selective hearing too. But I didn't care if, I needed him to get birds, and he was darn good at that.
Well, and it comes down to what is our expectation.
Right.
And that's on anything. I mean, any dog, any hunting of expectation that we all put on ourselves.
Right.
I think I talked to you right before I went on my last hunt, and I was just like, I'm trying, Todd. I'm trying, man. I'm trying to get out and try to use the time I have, which is just my days off. And, my expectation was going into that hunt was the first elk that gave me an opportunity I was going to take.
Right.
Is that the right mentality? No, not necessarily in my opinion, but it worked out for me.
You ended up with a really nice 6-point bull that scored over 300 inches.
Yeah.
And anything out of that particular unit that falls in that 320 to 340 range is a really good bull.
Exactly.
Now there's bigger bulls in there.
Yeah.
But you need to, if you're setting your sights at a 350 plus in that unit, you need to be prepared to eat your tag.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, I just wanted over 300 was my initial.
Well, you met it.
I did. Oh, and God truly blessed me.
Oh, I would say so.
So.
Hey, you sent me the pics, and I was in elk camp, and I just happened to have a spot of service and I got that message and saw the pics, and I'm like, yeah, buddy.
Yeah, man. No,
I showed Grace and my wife, and she's like, yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. No, I put a lot on myself this year for tags. And, I mean, you put in for all you can get.
Yeah.
But 90% of the time you only draw one.
Right. Or none.
In
my case.
Yeah. And so with me drawing, 5 out of 6 tags that I put in for.
Jeez.
I mean.
your September and October can disappear in a heartbeat.
And
when you draw those tags, you're literally – when you end up drawing a whole bunch of tags like you did, the planning phase comes into play. And you got to figure out, you have to allot time, or you go back to that. You're just in a whirlwind, and you don't get anything done because you have zero focused intensity.
Exactly.
It's like it's the same in life, and it's the same at work.
Yeah.
If I look at my life and I'm not balancing my number one job as a husband, my number 2 job as a daddy, with my responsibilities for Eastman's hunting journals, Eastman's publishing as the editor, with the Wingmen stuff, and my hunting and recreation, and on all the stuff, the family commitments and social commitments that happen, pretty soon I'm running around chasing my tail.
Yep.
So that requires planning. And all of the best hunts, all the times I've gotten the most out of, whether it's going someplace like going down to Colorado and hunting with the guys from Platte Basin Outdoors, or just heading out on a whim with you in for a morning shoot. If I don't have my life organized and dialed, I can't enjoy any of it.
No.
You know, before I took off last week and was gone, I dialed out an entire magazine before I left because this is our really busy time at Eastmans Hunting Journals, where October we produce the 2 Christmas, Thanksgiving for Eastman's Bow Hunting Journal and Eastman's Hunting Journal. I sent a magazine to the printer yesterday, and I turn around and next Wednesday I send another one.
Yeah.
That's a incredibly tight time window to put a magazine like ours together. And if I don't have all my ducks in a row and everything planned out,
That's not going to happen.
I'm a mess.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
chaos. And to be able to fit in any type of hunting or taking my oldest to basketball practice or being there for a volleyball game, being present at home, with my wife and my kids, you have to have that plan laid out.
Yep.
And you have to be disciplined to stick to it. And then there's the whole dog thing. You throw dogs in the mix, and I'm looking at Mackinac laying there last night, and I'm like, when was the last time I petted him? So I got down on the floor and
loved on him
a bit, because I don't know how many more of those opportunities I'm going to have.
Yeah.
It's just life.
Oh yeah.
And if you're not intentional about what you're doing, you're not going to be able to enjoy any of it, and you're not going to be effective at any of it either.
Correct.
It's funny how when you and I sit down, we talk hunting and we talk dogs, we do all this stuff, but it eventually comes back to life.
Exactly.
And that's what I really enjoy having you as my wingman, as my partner, being able to just chat about that stuff.
Well, and it's, all of us have our hunting buddies. I think anybody out there that's listening, we all have that buddy or buddies that we go hunting with. And it's not just about the killing. And we've talked about this before on other podcasts. It's the fellowship and keeping each other in check. Because if we're not taking care of each other and making sure you're doing good or I'm doing good, we're missing the big picture, in my opinion.
Right.
And so I love it also. I mean, it's just a ball. It's like this morning I texted you, say, hey, what time?
Right.
It's just, you said Thursday, so I already got it down on my book to where I was coming.
And it's tough this time of year to get all these episodes in.
Yeah.
We try to front load stuff as much as we can, but this time of year, we're on a skeleton crew here in the office. Everybody's going different directions. Exactly. And being able to get a producer in here to get everything set up and get us lined out so we have what we need can be tough. So I'm like, let's try to do Thursday afternoon, and it worked out. So.
It did. And, I'd say God's timing works out every time.
Yep.
Our own timing is where we get in the way.
Yep, you're 100% correct. 100% correct. Well, on the dog thing, back to dogs real quick. We talked about things you can be doing while you're hunting. A lot of guys are staring down the arrow or staring down the gun sights of deer season.
Yeah.
Listening to this, the whitetail rut is right around the corner.
Yeah.
Getting into the time of year that a lot of guys just absolutely eat up and then head into their waterfowl seasons later in November, December, January, and February. Some guys up north are winding up, wrapping up their duck seasons already.
Yeah. I
know where I grew up, we had, this was kind of the prime time migration for geese and ducks. And it seems like we kill a lot of birds this time of year. But we were on the short end. We were on the short end of the stick too, because by the middle of November, a lot of stuff was frozen up. Yeah, and duck hunting was over.
Yeah, because
we're far north.
We're in our first split right now, and so there's nothing going on for us right now.
But everything's closed
in the next 2 weeks.
Yep.
So,
and again, I probably won't focus on it too hard until weather turns and we get a pile of birds. But there's definitely going to be opportunities.
Oh yeah,
and I'm excited about it. But talking about the dogs, we talked about steadiness drills, things like I run wind sprints with Hondo in the backyard. I don't run them; he runs them. I'm too fat and old to run wind sprints anymore.
Oh, Pollock over there.
That's right, man. These knees ain't what they used to be. But what I mean by that is fast-paced single marks.
Oh yeah,
where he doesn't get any rest.
Yeah,
and I'm not doing that for an hour.
No,
I'm doing that for 10 minutes.
Yep,
15 minutes.
Get him wore out. Get him
his
tired.
tongue is hanging out, and he's like,
yeah.
But he doesn't. He's got such high retrieving drive. He won't quit unless I make him quit.
Yeah.
but you got to monitor your dog when you're doing that conditioning work. But it's like throw a bumper, and it's 40 yards across my backyard.
Yeah.
Throw a bumper to the fence. He goes and gets it, brings it back. I take it from him. He sits. I throw it, send him.
Yeah.
And it's 5 to 10 minutes, 15 tops of that, where it's go, 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 go. He's panting, tired, but it's great conditioning.
Oh, man.
Especially for when, I think to that hunt we did a couple weeks ago, where he was making 100-yard, 200-yard water retrieves out in that pond. A lot of those ducks fell far. I'm like, we weren't shooting them that far, but they ended up out there a ways.
Well, one of the things I want to say about that pond, and because I told you not to bring your waders because I didn't want you to have to do a whole lot, that mud, I don't know if you saw on Hondo's first retrieve, he bounded all the way across that pond until about like 10 yards from the bird, and then he picked the bird up and then he swam a little bit. There was only a foot and a half of water, and then it was mud underneath.
Bottomless mud.
He just bounded that first one, and I was just like, it was awesome.
Right.
Because that's the legs that Hondo's got.
Yeah.
But to have that, the ability of legging him up, conditioning him, if your dog's not conditioned, he's going to get two good retrieves, and then he's going to be toast.
He's going to be tired. He's not going to want to keep doing it. Plus, it's not good for him.
No.
You don't want to stroke out a dog, or you don't want to give a dog a heart attack or injure your dog on a hunt. And the off-season conditioning and in-season conditioning is huge. And those wind sprints in the backyard are a
perfect.
Easy way for me to do that after work.
Yep.
I'm out cooking dinner on my Blackstone or on the Traeger in the backyard, and I can throw bumpers while I'm doing that.
Yeah.
And he loves it. It's good for him. So you guys that are listening that, live in town or may not have the opportunity to work a dog real hard, man, it's simple. Find a little bit of room. It doesn't have to be far, 30 yards.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Throw single marks. Do it for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And watch your dog, and when it's tired, quit.
Well, and even with that, what comes to mind is to make sure you're doing it in a way that the dog's enjoying it.
Oh, yeah.
If you're putting a lot of pressure to keep the dog holding in a hand,
right,
or holding to hand and all, one of the things, if I'm doing wind sprints like you're doing, I'm not even asking them to sit. I'm grabbing the bumper from them, and I'm chucking.
Yeah, and I make them sit. I'm still working conditioning, but I'm also working on hold.
Yeah.
Where I want them to sit at heel and hold.
Yeah.
And just make them do it.
Well, and that's for me, when I'm doing that, it's not even with a bumper.
Sure.
It's a tennis ball. It's something different, fun.
That chuck it tool.
Yes.
Those tennis ball chuck it's, man alive.
Yeah.
That we've got a spot that's Grace can take the chuck it. My wife Grace can take the chuck it, and Hondo and my son and the little guy that she watches during the day.
Yeah.
She can take him to the park. Kids can play, and she can use the chuck it for Hondo.
Yeah.
I came home the other day, and he's literally sound asleep, full sploot in the sun in the backyard, out.
Yeah.
And I'm going, what? I looked at her, I'm like, what'd you do to Hondo?
Yeah.
She's like, I used the chuck it on him this morning.
Yeah. Well, and so 2 nights ago, got home from work. It's dark outside. I go out, and me and my wife just chucking a tennis ball for him. Well, I started using it as for him hunting right next to my fence line. There's a bunch of weeds.
Perfect.
I was throwing that tennis ball into the weeds
in the
dark.
Yeah, he's got to find it.
He couldn't see the ball at all.
Nope.
And there he's hunting. And, there's so much you can do.
Things.
It's the little things. And it's not that challenging. It's just making the time intentional.
I remember my first lab that we had dogs growing up, but the first one that was wholly mine that I bought, I trained 100%. I was fresh out of college, and I was working for Gander Mountain.
Okay.
And I was working 1 to 9, 1 in the afternoon to 9 to close. And that was my shift.
Yeah.
And so we would either, in the fall, I got her in, I think, June, and I hunted her that fall. And females, in my opinion, start faster than males do.
Yeah.
They start hunting and retrieving, and really, they just mature a little faster than males do. And she retrieved her first rough grouse when she was 10 weeks old, 11 weeks old. Bird was almost as big as she was.
Yeah.
She's out there digging them out of the brush, and woodcock same way. And getting some ducks and dragging geese around that fall. She was little, but I didn't expect much. But that winter, that first winter, and winters in that Lake Superior country are no joke. And there was a Catholic church, Catholic parish across the street from where I lived. And they had a big lot. And I went and asked the priest if I could train my dog on the grounds. And he's like, yeah, just pick up after it, and I don't care. I said, perfect, thank you. And we get so much snow in that Lake Superior country that the snowbanks would be halfway up the tree or treetop height, where they're piling up snow, pushing it out of the parking lot. Well, by February, the snowbanks are 50 feet tall. And people listening to this that don't understand that are like, what? And it's like, oh, yeah. And the snow on the level is in the yard is 6 to 7 feet deep. And it settles and it'll get a crust on it. So, yeah, it's deep, but it's not like you're plunging through it. Dog can run through it, and you get new powder and whatever. Yeah. But I trained that dog every night when I got home from work. And we would do it for hours because she loved it. I loved it.
Oh, yeah.
And I didn't have anything else to do. And that next fall, and I had that dog for 3 years. She got hit by a car going into her 4th year. And heartbreaking. But in the 3 years, the 2 real years that she hunted hard when she was an adult, I want to say some crazy tally, like 3,000 birds.
Wow.
And we hunted hard.
Oh, yeah.
Like I said, I was single. I didn't have a family. I was working 1 to 9 so I could hunt every morning. And then I left that place and moved to Lower Peninsula, Michigan, and started hunting hard with my brother. He and I moved in together, and it was like we were basically running an outfitting business without charging for it. Anybody that wanted to go, we took, And that dog retrieved so many birds. But it was that time putting in. But I remember running those drills in the dark where I would throw the bumper over that giant snowbank, and she would scramble up one side and have to find it on the other. Yeah. White bumpers in the snow.
Oh, yeah.
And there was never a bird. I don't remember with Josie, if I ever lost a bird once she got to her 2nd year. There was one in particular. We were pheasant hunting with my uncle and a couple buddies in the Lower Peninsula of Michigan, and we sailed this rooster. It got up wild. She flushed it. He flushed wild, and it swung in front of the guy on the end, the wheelman, and he took tail feathers out of it, shot it in the butt, leg dangling, and it sails. And it sails a long ways. But we got permission to hunt everything around, and we finished our loop, and we're walking back to the trucks. And I knew that it was close to the road, but I didn't think it was. I thought it was a couple hundred yards past the road where it went down. It was so far away that you couldn't really tell.
Yeah.
And I got her walking a heel. We're walking down this county gravel road back to the trucks, guns unloaded, just walking. And all of a sudden I look, and she's not a heel anymore, which is a bad habit of hers, which is eventually what got her killed. And she's hunting in the ditch in like 6-inch tall grass. I mean, the ditch had been brush hogged.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, that rooster kind of hops up in front of her, and she smokes him, snatches him right out of the air. And I was like, dang.
Yeah.
She never lost a bird, and I attribute that in large part to running all those blind retrieves where she had to do exactly what you were just talking about. Had to find a needle in a stack of needles, a white bumper in acres and acres and acres of white snow.
Yeah.
In the powder, can't see the bumper, it's under the snow.
Exactly.
So her nose comes into play.
Yeah.
All those things were challenges that she had to overcome in her training and learn how to use her nose. That's so funny to watch Hondo, because he's still young. He relies on his eyes first. And that's his nose is like second, which is funny because you could definitely tell. It's like, boom, there it is. That day we hunted, we sailed a mallard and we sailed a goose, both of which went down dead. Yeah. And he found them both with his nose. He couldn't see them. Yep. But he had to hunt. Where if he thinks he can see something, he's running around like an idiot. Yep. Using his eyes looking for it. And then he'll smell it. Yep. So getting a dog used to using its nose to find what you want it to find is huge.
Oh, so important.
Hey guys, this episode of the Wingmen podcast is brought to you by High Mountain Seasonings. The folks down at High Mountain Seasonings in Riverton, Wyoming have had my business since before I started working at Eastmans and way before Wingmen was even an idea in my head. I've been making homemade jerky and sausage and you name it, snack and sticks with their kits for a really, really long time. Having the pleasure a couple years ago to go down and take a factory tour and film that and do a duck hunt with one of the guys from the company, Brian Tucker, was a pleasure. They have such a cool operation down there in Riverton, Wyoming, and to think that their product from little old Riverton spreads out all over the country and into Canada is mind-blowing. I know they do business internationally as well, but it's incredible to me. I can go in so many different places, from the local grocery store to any of the big box sporting goods stores, and find that product. I can go in, I can grab a box, I could take it home, and I can, within 48 hours or 72 hours, I can have some of the best goose jerky known to man. I can put that on a plate, and you wouldn't know it's goose. I mean, a lot of guys be like, wow, this is amazing venison jerky. And it's like, hey, thanks. Yeah, you're eating goose. Like, what? This is goose? Thank you, High Mountain Seasonings. It's not just jerky kits, though, that those guys do. They have a whole ton of products. So I would recommend that you go over to highmountainjerky.com and check out the full assortment of products that they've got down there in Riverton, Wyoming.
So important to have that drive of a hunt. I mean, there are dogs out there that you're going to have that don't use their nose a whole lot. It's mainly eyes, or vice versa. They're not watching. They're not looking.
And either way, they miss stuff.
Exactly. And so in breeding aspect, I tried to breed one dog of high drive and then one that's got a brain that's going to be looking for the bird. And that's, there's a difference when you go into the breeding aspect of it. But to go in that line of you have to put the dog in the place to where he has to hunt, has to use his nose. And, from when I got Jasper at 10 weeks old, we would go out in the yard and I'd throw him mainly in the weeds just because I wanted him to hunt. I wanted him to use that nose. And then things just come from there. I mean, the more opportunities, the more times there's birds on the ground, the better the dogs are going to be.
Takes birds to make a bird dog.
Exactly. You can have a great bumper dog.
Yep.
I mean, but if you don't put them on birds, they're just not going to understand what you're asking them to do.
And that may require you going to a bird farm.
Correct.
And shooting placed pheasants.
Yep.
Or placed chuckers or quail or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
You may have to do that. Not everybody lives in a place where they can go out and consistently get on wild birds on public ground.
Correct.
Being able to do that where you can get a dog into birds and get them enough retrieves and get them enough flushes to the point where the dog's automatic. You take it out and it hunts.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And it's all on what you want also.
Right.
I mean, if your drive is you kill 24 birds a year and your dog goes and picks them up every time, well, that's perfectly fine.
Yep.
But if you want to go into the upland or even going into the mountains after sage grouse or prairie hunt or whatever you're after, it's all on what the owner of the dog wants the dog to do.
Right.
I mean, any of these dogs, from German short hairs to labs to wire hairs, it's what the owner truly wants out of the dog.
It's funny you say that because I just had a friend that I haven't seen him in years, but we stay in touch.
Yeah.
And he asked me, he's got young boys, young family, but they're getting to the age where they want to hunt. They want to get out. And he lives in a metropolitan area.
Yeah.
And he asked me this morning, he also lives in a part of the country where the rough grouse and woodcock hunting is very, very good.
Yeah.
And he asked me this morning what my thoughts were on German short hairs. He hunted with me when he and I got to know each other in college. I had a German short hair at the time that my dad had bought. It was a finished dog. She was 4 years old, and she was a stud.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, she was amazing.
Yeah.
Neither one of us got to saw the work that went into that. We just got to enjoy the end.
Yep.
The end of it.
The reward of it.
which there's nothing wrong with.
No.
You don't have the time, by all means, buy a started or a finished dog,
Yep.
whatever. But I know him. I know his personality. I know kind of what his home life is like as far as busyness and schedule. And he's a busy professional man. And I just flat told him, I said, I don't think a German Shorthair is the right choice for you. I said, that's a lot of dog. German Shorthairs are high drive. They take a lot of exercise. Any of your pointing breeds take more exercise than a lab's going to take.
100%.
Whether it's an English pointer, an English setter, a German Shorthair, a Drahthaar, I don't care what.
Yeah.
I told him, I said, if you're dead set on a pointing dog, you should probably look at a French Brittany.
Okay, yeah.
I said, that French Brittany is going to be a little easier to maintain in the home. It's not going to require as much legging. You still got to get it out. You still got to train it. You still got to work it. But they're a little more laid back in the home, while still being close. And for him, he needs a dog that hunts close.
Correct.
He's hunting woods, rough grouse, woodcock. You don't want. Let me rephrase. There's going to be guys out there going, "Oh, my English pointer," and that's fine. I've seen some that are really good in the uplands. I think personally that English pointers, German Shorthairs, big running dogs do better where it's more open.
Correct.
In the prairies.
Big country.
Big country where you got to cover a ton of ground. You know, these guys out here that are diehard chucker guys, big running dogs are a necessity for them because that dog's got to cover miles and miles and miles of country while you're walking along, or sometimes even driving a 2-track, monitoring the dog and going, okay, he's on point, let's go. He might be 3/4 of a mile away on a ridgetop.
Yeah.
And hold those birds till you get there. That's a lot different than hunting the uplands in the Great Lakes where it's thick.
Oh, yeah.
You can't see 50 yards.
No.
And you need a dog that is going to work right at your feet.
Yep.
Because if they're out in front of you 150 or 200 yards, they are going to be missing birds that are between you and them, and you're going to shoot a lot of birds that flush wild right at your feet.
Yep.
And the dog's not going to be there to help you find them. Then you're going to be hunting dead. And it's just not as enjoyable. So when I think about, man, if I were ever to go back there, or if I lived to move there, live there, I'd still have my labs, but I'd probably have a French Brittany to go along with them.
Oh, yeah.
That would work close, 15, 20, 30 yards max, cover a ton of ground in that space, and find all the birds that we're actually gonna kill.
Yeah.
Anyway, I related that to him, and I was honest with him. And I said, these are just some observations that I have made. I am by no means what I would consider an expert on that.
Yeah.
But I've done a lot of it. I've hunted a lot of it. I've been around a lot of different dogs, and that would be my suggestion. Knowing his personality, his busyness, I'm like, that Brittany's probably going to be the right fit for you. So we're interested to see what he goes with. I don't know, but we'll see. But that brings me to a point about, I have an opportunity next weekend. I'm going over to Sheridan and doing a birds for bucks hunt with the Mule Deer Foundation. We're doing it's a canned pheasant hunt.
Yep.
Excuse me. With a bunch of sporting clays shooting mixed in after the hunt's over. It might be before, I can't remember.
Yep.
And the guys from Weatherby are going to join us over there because it's right in their backyard, which is cool.
Yeah.
Have a good time with them, continuing to build our new relationship with Weatherby. That'll be a good time. But I was asked by the gentleman who's putting it on, are you going to bring Hondo? And I said, no. And he's like, okay, yeah, whatever. There's going to be guides there. Now, granted, these are put and take pheasants, right? Yep. It's on a shooting preserve. We don't necessarily need guides, but they're basically dog handlers is what they're going to do. There's going to be a bunch of dogs there. My attention needs to be focused not as much on the hunt and more on the building relationships and making sure that we get the content we need and all that different stuff. So managing Hondo in that setting is going to add a wrinkle of complexity that could make it not as enjoyable for anybody. Not that Hondo's going to be out of control, because he's not. But my attention is going to be focused on hunting him.
Yep.
And I made the decision that, nope, I'm going to leave him.
Well, and that's, I would say that's extremely wise. It's no different with our first hunt that we had this year, and how I had mentioned I was going to bring Dara also, which then you made a very valid point of then my attention would have been on 2 dogs, not just one.
And we get back to that focused intensity.
Exactly. And, in the way about that is you need somebody as a dog handler, and then yourself to focus on the relationship building, and then another person as a dog handler.
The first year that I hunted Hondo,
Yeah.
I shot very few ducks.
Yep.
I hunted a lot.
Yeah.
But I was working Hondo.
Mm-hmm.
And it was funny because Ike Eastman, the owner and president of Eastman's Publishing and my boss, was on a couple of those hunts. And he's like, "Have you shot a bird?" And I'm like, "No, I haven't picked up my shotgun." And he goes, "Dude, you need to." He's like, "You're the face of Wingmen. You're the wingman.
Yeah.
If you're not shooting birds on camera," and I was more focused that first year
On the dog.
I had to get Hondo where he needed to be.
Yeah.
Now it's a little different, and my focus is more on him. But I think I appreciate your words, but I think knowing when to leave your dog at home is just as important as all of the training that you put into it.
100%. And knowing the limit.
Mm-hmm.
So we hunt with quite a few buddies
Yep.
out here, and everybody's got a dog.
Yep.
And, there's been times that I've left my dogs at the house, and I know our buddy Tyler's left one of his dogs at the house. There is a time and place that you can have 50 dogs. And I say 50 is just a big number.
Yeah, exactly.
But, what I hope is that our dogs, at some point or another, we can have 5 dogs in a blind.
Mm-hmm.
Now, will they be in the blind with us? No. They'll be in a layout, hidden,
and most of the hunts that we're on, 2 dogs, 3 dogs, or 2
More
dogs.
than plenty.
2 dogs is more than enough.
Yes. I don't like personally hunting without 2 dogs. If it's just in case you do dump more than your fair share in the Russian River that we have here.
Right.
And you got 3 birds in the water, you send the dog, he gets the first one, second one pretty good, okay. The third one it's scooting down the river.
Oh, yeah.
And so
you end up losing birds.
And so in my opinion, having more dogs is better in my opinion.
Right. But they have to be manageable.
Correct. They can't just be running amok. It can't be going. One dog is sent and all 3 go after the first bird. That's not what we want.
Yeah, and it's ugly on camera. Obviously, it doesn't look good, and that's the way I look at it because of what we do.
Oh, exactly.
But there's more to it than that. There's a safety component involved as well, where you get dogs running around, and pretty soon guns are getting knocked over.
Correct.
And things get western in a hurry, and you can't afford that.
No.
You can't afford somebody getting shot.
No.
Or a dog getting killed because there was a loaded gun leaning up against a bush, and the dogs are running around and knocking over. It's not the dog's fault. It's the person's fault at that point.
Exactly. And like you said, making that decision that you made of he's not coming, do we all want our dogs to be?
Dude, I would love for him to be there.
And that's
fetching
what I'm saying.
pheasants like crazy. I'm like, that'd be so much fun.
And there's time and a place for that.
Right.
And so I really think, you've made a wise decision.
Well, I appreciate that. But it's one of those things that when you came in here to sit down and do this, we were kind of going over things we wanted to discuss. And that was one of the things that I hadn't even thought about that kind of came up.
Yeah.
And it's important because I look at my folks headed back to Iowa on Monday, and pheasant opener in South Dakota, and they're driving across South Dakota, and they can't find a hotel room because they forgot about it.
Oh.
And my dad's like, "Man, I wish that I would have planned that. I wish I would have thought this through a little bit and planned a day on either side or on coming home because in South Dakota you can hunt the ditches.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't have a dog anymore." But he could walk pheasants up in the ditch, especially on opening day.
Oh, gosh, yeah. They're everywhere. Yeah.
And he's like, I should have taken an extra day and done some of that.
Mm-hmm.
But it leads me to some of these big pheasant shoots that I've been on. I mean, I've been on 2 in particular where there were 70 to 80 guys involved.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, where you see the school bus full of dudes. I mean, I've been on those.
Oh, yeah.
And if the people running the show, which most of those are extremely well orchestrated.
Yes.
And they run a tight ship because they have to.
Correct.
But if it's a circus out there, people get shot, dogs get shot, things go south in a hurry.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just not good. So knowing when to just leave that dog at home is
and that comes with
huge.
Knowing, being around it enough to
and you don't know who you're going to hunt with.
Exactly.
I trust you guys. I trust all the guys I hunt with. I trust. Yeah. I know they're going to be safe with their guns. I know when the dogs are running around bringing birds back and it's chaos, that guns are going to be either leaned up in a secure position where they're not going to tip over or they're unloaded.
Yep.
But when you get in a situation like those big corporate style hunts, you don't know who's going to be there.
No,
and you can't. I hate to say this, but you can't trust people. So I don't want my dog getting shot.
Correct.
Especially flushing dogs like labs. They're running along a low flying bird. They're running along underneath it, snapping at it, trying to get it.
Oh yeah.
And they're doing what they're supposed to do. And if there's not sky under that bird, that dog stands a really good chance of getting killed.
And that was one of the big things back home with all of our pointers that we trained at the plantation. They were truly whoa trained. There was no moving until I released the dogs. And, we had a lab that would flush. Mm-hmm. And, because not knocking any pointer, but they don't like going in the thick stuff as much as a lab
it goes
does.
back to what we were talking about my buddy's stuff.
Yep.
When I hunted with the guys in Montana a few years back at Montana Upland Outfitters, we hunted pheasants and sharptail. Yeah. And it was late. Birds were really tough. They were wily, extremely rough conditions, and those birds were buried in the thick. And we hunted. They always had a couple of English pointers for the big open sweeping stuff that would run the edges, but they had brush busters too.
Oh yeah,
they're running
labs, cocker spaniels,
German wire hairs, dogs that love being in the cover.
They don't care.
Yep.
They have that drive. So it just depends on what every person's after. Those big shoots, big hunts, they're fun. Don't get me wrong. I've been on them. I've guided them. They're ball. But in the end of the day, I love just the 4 or 5 guys just hunting together with buddies. You know, that's where it's just a pleasure for me.
I think so too. I've gotten to the point where with waterfowl, 2, 3 dudes, 4 tops.
Yep.
On a field goose shoot or field mallard hunt, it's fun to have 5, 6, 7, 8 guys.
Oh yeah.
And your safety component has to be dialed.
Correct.
But on a tight little duck hole or on the river someplace, 2, 3, 4 guys max.
Yeah.
It's just you can take turns.
Mm-hmm.
You and Tyler and I had a hunt at the end of the season last year where we just took turns.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And
we shot all greenheads.
And it was awesome.
And it was like, Josh, you're up.
Yep.
And when somebody misses an easy one, I think I missed a bird that was right in the decoys backpedaling, and I missed him. And boy, you get some ribbon when you're the only one shooting. You know what I mean?
Well, all the pressure's on you.
Absolutely.
Which we all have those times. Todd, you're a phenomenal shot. So is Tyler. And
it's the federal ammunition. Dude. Don't kid yourself.
That's what they always say. But it's awesome to have. So I'm just going to throw the 3 of us out there to have 3 shooters, and can be in a way a competition of who shoots first or whatever. But I hate to say it, when the 3 of us are together and the birds are there, it is what any hunter wants.
It's a lot of fun. It's fun to hunt with. You spend a lot of time, as you said, hunting with youth.
Yep.
And taking newbies out, and a lot of rounds can get fired and no birds fall.
Oh boy!
In situations like that, and you're like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
But when you go with guys that you don't have to. The communication's almost nonverbal.
Yeah.
It's like when the shot needs to be taken. There's not a lot of hemming and hawing. It's just 3, 4 guys out there that know each other very well, that are experienced, and just knocking stuff down. I mean, we that goose hunt we did, the last hunt we did last year. Again, Wingmen YouTube channel, guys. That's coming out soon. That hunt was over before it started.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it was like if the birds read the script and did their part, we were going to mash them.
Yep.
And
we did.
It was a sleigh fest.
Yeah.
I mean, we killed our 15 honkers in 10 minutes, 15 minutes. It was fast.
Back in town and eating lunch at like 12:45.
It took way longer to set up and tear down than it did to kill our birds.
Yes.
And we shut the camera off and let the cameraman shoot at the end, and he killed his 5.
Yep.
And it was just one of those days when the weather was right, the birds were here, and they cooperated, and the hide was good. I mean, everything worked.
Everything panned out.
And then everybody shot good.
Yep.
And there's days when, I mean, I appreciate you saying I'm a good shot, but there's days when I can't hit my butt with either hand.
Well,
dude.
yeah, I mean,
everybody
that's
has
all of us.
Everybody has those where you're like, what is going on?
And then there's days that it's lights out.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think a lot of that goes back to our busyness. When I shot competitively in college for sporting clay, skeet, and trap, I would have days that the clay pigeons looked like a pumpkin.
Right.
And then other days I couldn't see them. And, that comes down to, when I was in college, I had finals. I shot like terrible after finals because I was just spent. And so, I think a lot of it for all of us is depending on what we're going through in our general life. And not just that, but where we are with Christ. If our main goal is Christ, everything kind of all comes together. But depending on where we're going through with our life, and all of us have life differences and situations in our life. So it's just a flip of a coin.
Right.
But to have that set center of where are we with our Christ and our family, there's a lot to it.
Yep. I agree 100%. It's all the little things that make the big things possible.
Oh, yeah.
And if you don't have those little things dialed, whether it's your dog, your shooting, your gear, all those things. We went on that first goose hunt or first waterfowl hunt earlier this year, and I got out there and realized I didn't have my ear protection because I knew we were going to be by a pond. I just grabbed a bucket.
Yeah.
I grabbed a Yeti bucket, threw some shells, some coffee, some snacks, and my call's in there. I'm like, I'm good. Got everything I need. My bird strap, I'm ready to go.
Yep.
I didn't have my blind bag. Well, guess what's in my blind bag? All my ear pro, and I'm like, oh my goodness. And so I guess I'm just going to do it old school and not wear ear pro today.
Well, it's no different with me. We came up with that plan for that hunt just last minute.
Right.
And I got off work, tried to find all my decoys. I got a handful of what I needed.
Yeah, because I'm like, what do you need me to bring? You're like, nothing. Just come. It's like, okay.
Well, if I could have gotten my flappers or my spinners to work, it would have been. I think we would have done better than what we did.
Yeah.
But that's no different than any type of hunt. It's always learning. Uh-huh. Every hunt, if it's just normal repetition every single time, it's just I love having. It's all supposed to be about learning, not just the dogs, not just the shooting, how you set your decoy spread. Every single hunt is something to learn.
Yep.
And so I just last minute. Hey, let's go hunting.
No,
let's roll.
It was a good one, and like I said, we're just getting into the meat and potatoes of our bird hunting season here. Guys, whether you're listening to this and you're a generalist hunter like I am, where everything has its time, big game, you do that. Doves, ducks, it doesn't matter. Or you're specifically an upland hunter or specifically a waterfowl hunter. I think that we're just coming into the best time of the year.
Yeah.
For most of us, to the point where we literally the whole rest of the year we dream about these next few weeks.
Yeah.
And we're going to sit down in March and be talking about turkey hunting before we know it.
And that's another passion of both of us.
Yeah, it's going to be great. But in that time frame, we're going to have a lot of ducks and geese to kill. We're going to have some pheasants to shoot. Still got a few big game tags to fill. And being present in the moment and enjoying all of it is what that's my 100% focus for the year. And I'm just stoked. I'm stoked with where Hondo's at. I'm stoked with where Jasper's at. And I'm just looking forward to just crushing birds.
Oh, it should be an absolute ball. I'm excited to see what the future holds for us.
Absolutely. Well, guys, thank you for joining us on this episode of the Wingmen Podcast. We really appreciate it. Huge shout out to our partners. We couldn't do this without you guys. You know, the guys at Cryptech, the guys at Federal, at Weatherby, High Mountain Seasonings, and Onyx Hunt. Man, just phenomenal to have you on board and help us do what we do. And guys, if you're looking for new gear, check out all those companies. They all make top-notch gear, and you can't go wrong with any of those brands. If you have questions on a specific thing, email me, reach out to us here at Wingmen, and we'll help you with whatever we can. And until next time, Josh, thank you for having us, for being on again.
You
and
bet.
I'm looking forward to more, and we'll see you guys in the field.